Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I'm just gonna see what happens. All right, here we go. Getting a
Testing
link to
1, 2, 3, 4,
Erwan.
5, 6.
Let me see what's up in Twitter.
It seems that it's up in Twitter. I can see it.
It is indeed beautiful.
All right.
Incredible.
We
Good
gotta
morning,
capture
good
all of
evening,
the
good
doom scrollers,
afternoon.
huh?
Hi, everyone.
Yes. We are not here to preach doom.
We're not here to. We're here to do the opposite of that. Even though
That's right.
Penumbra might be a privacy-oriented network, just because the aesthetic of privacy seems to be doom and gloom doesn't mean we need to be all about doom and gloom, right? Like, I don't think we are actually, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah. Gar's off camera, so I'll let you have your privacy to cough. Hello, welcome. This is another beautiful edition of the Penumbra Community Call. We have a lot of things cooking, and so the team is a little all over the place today. So we'll see if we can kind of like do a little like kind of drive by and get a little glimpse on what's going on. Probably won't keep you for the whole hour, but glad that you're stopping by. Is Gar, let me just say, look, Gar, still there. So on one side of me is Park, CEO of Radiant Commons. On the other side of me is Gar, product at Penumbra Labs. And we'll have Erwan showing up. Erwan's here too. So we also have the CTO of Penumbra Labs, who's going to talk a little bit about what he's been hacking on. Gar, I know that you wanted to show off some stuff first, so I thought that we would give you the floor so that you can run off and continue your work. Is that okay, Park?
Sounds good to me.
Cool. Let me move our heads all around. All right. The floor is yours.
Thank you.
Wait.
All right.
Oh. Okay, good.
Okay.
Yep, we're good.
Everyone. I introduce myself every week, but I'm Gar. I work in product at Penumbra Labs. So I thought what I'd talk about a little bit today is something that's been on my mind quite a bit, which is user onboarding. So last week or 2 weeks ago, we had a really interesting kind of open floor conversation about user experience in general in Web3 and how, it's in some ways not really where we'd like it to be. It's true that there are certain constraints that we work around in Web3 that we would not have in Web2. Specifically with Penumbra, there are some other constraints, but they're because of the magic of the privacy of Penumbra. But that does not preclude us from thinking very carefully about what our user experience entails, and more specifically what I want to talk about today, which is what our user onboarding experience entails. So within the Penumbra ecosystem, obviously we have users interacting with a number of products, primarily with Prax. Sorry, I'm going to kill Slack very quickly. Primarily with Prax, the wallet that users use to interact with the Penumbra protocol, and then the interfaces such as Minifront and more recently Veil, where users can swap and trade and LP and all of that. So we're currently, as we've mentioned in previous community calls, working on the next version of Prax. And again, really top of mind there has been user experience and user onboarding. One thing we found specifically, or I found when I'm been doing my research on the wallet experience in Web3 in general, is that there are a lot of kind of, I suppose, like vestigial like components to the user experience and to the onboarding experience that, those of us who have been in Web3 for some time kind of just take for granted, like this is part of what we need to do when we onboard with a wallet. Things like we will always have those screens that say, here is your recovery passphrase. Please confirm your recovery passphrase. Now enter a password. Now confirm your password. And there are a lot of steps there that kind of are unnecessary on the front end of things. It's obviously very important that we give users the opportunity to back up things like the recovery passphrase and make that information available, but it doesn't necessarily need to be front and center for a user when we really just want them to start experiencing our products if they're new to them. And so we'll be, we've taken a careful look at some of those steps, and we'll be kind of removing some of them on the onboarding in Prax, such that it will be really, really convenient for a user to install a Prax extension and get started using the Penumbra Penumbra protocol and the interfaces in the ecosystem as quickly as possible. And that also, that thought process is similar to what we've been thinking about with Veil. So in Veil, the DEX built on top of the Penumbra protocol, when we released the alpha version of Veil, we really wanted to make sure that there was a step-by-step onboarding guide for users that would bring them from, I am brand new, I've just installed Prax, to I have now connected Prax, I've connected a Cosmos wallet, and now I'm shielding assets from my Cosmos wallet into the Penumbra shielded pool, and now I can interact with Veil. I can create limit orders, I can do swaps, I can provide liquidity, everything like that. And so that onboarding guide is in Veil today, but it's definitely something that we kind of that I would say we rushed out because we wanted there to be something there to guide users through. So now because we've done that, because we've taken a step back, made sure that the experience in Veil is exactly what we want for users, although we will continue to iterate on that. We're now kind of taking a step back and looking at the onboarding process, making sure that it will integrate really nicely with the aesthetic of Veil, that it will integrate with the existing components that are there. And I was going to kind of screen share it a little bit today. I don't think I will. I'm kind of happy to just talk about it at this point. But it is that there are improvements that you will be seeing in Veil in the coming weeks and months. And I suppose just to finish up, just to reiterate that user experience and particularly onboarding experience is something that we think about a lot. It's very important to us. And as I always say, please feel free to provide any feedback, whether it be in Twitter or Discord. We value that very much, and we will continue reaching out, looking for beta testers who want to help us through the process of validating all of the assumptions that we have about these processes. So thank you for the time.
Incredible. Thank you so much, Gar. I know that y'all have a lot going on. We also have Erwan here, who also has a very tight schedule, but I just want to sorry, usually Park does this, but the name of the game is user experience and onboarding. So we have actually a lot of things happening across the ecosystem in this space here. Gar, I will let you use my power. So we have a lot of things going on the Radiant side as well in the onboarding space, but I wanted to give Erwan the floor first so that he can dash if he needs to. Did you want to chime in with anything, Park?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just important to reiterate the fact that a lot of what's going on right now with the Penumbra experience has been and will continue to be improving that user experience and expanding that utility of that user experience into all connected domains, and with a pretty strong concentration on people being oh, I really want to engage with and interact with the Penumbra economy itself. So it's been really cool because I know we've seen Erwan has been hacking live on X here and there, and I think it'd be really cool to hear some of the stuff that Erwan's focused on and what he thinks the improvements are from the hacking he's doing.
Absolutely. Let's see if he is here.
I am.
Hi, Erwan. Yay. Okay, cool. Do you want to screen share or just talk?
Well, I can chat. I think it's a good format like that. Can people? I'm curious. Can people ask questions? On Spaces, people can request speaker. Is it possible here as well?
I don't think people can request to be speakers, but they can send messages.
All right.
Yeah.
So I've been hacking on a few things this week in Spaces. I'm going to do that after this stream as well. So what we've done is there's a bunch of things we can do for the user experience in general, but we're also kind of limping in some key areas of the user journeys. So one of those is if you've used Prax and Veil or Minifront, you might have noticed, or Skip, you might have noticed you cannot do multi-hop withdrawals. If you have USDC on Penumbra and you want to withdraw it to Osmosis, you would have to first withdraw to Noble, then bridge to osmosis. I mean, it's not very, very great. So it's one of the areas where we can just make things better. And essentially, like, the hacking sessions are, my hope is first get people like to ask questions and share a little bit of the interesting stuff that we do, but also kind of help me drive on, like, how can I spend like 3 hours like here and there to just round the corners of the different user journeys. So stuff we've done this week is we've hacked on the DEX engine to increase. So the DEX engine is the actual like piece of code that powers trades on Penumbra. It lets you do all sorts of cool things like optimal routing, so you can get like the best execution possible. And when you do a trade on Penumbra, you have basically like your trade broken up into different routes. Each route forms a trace. Each trace has a collection of hops. So if you go from USDC to ETH, your trade might be routed via like BTC or or Osmo or whatever. And we want to increase it's called observability of those traces. So we want to give people the ability to see not just how trade decomposes, so into like its children traces, but have a sense of which positions are actually being hit in that execution. And it's really, really important because that hit rate for a position is what drives liquidity position like profitability in general, because positions make essentially money on fees. So it's a fairly in the weeds kind of like stream of work, but one that like then unlocks into, like I can see which trades are hitting which positions. I have a sense of what should I do as a user in order to make markets on Penumbra. So that's the thing we're going to finish today. We hacked on the registry to override like the symbols for alloyed assets coming from osmosis. So previously it showed up as ETH and BTC, but truly those are wrapped assets that have they're a collection of different wrapped assets. They're called alloyed assets, so they shouldn't be rendered as ETH or BTC because they don't convert one-to-one. They don't have like a trustless conversion and redemption to their underlying. So we did that, and what we're going to do Saturday is hack on this packet forwarding middleware support. So letting people do multi-hop withdrawal and then lay the groundwork so that you can do swaps. So you can use Skip to basically use the DEX. And this one will be pretty exciting as well. It's going to be a couple live streams for sure. Like, it's a larger piece of work, but one I'm pretty excited about. So it's sort of the like what we've done so far, modulo some technical difficulties of like making things work. Because I really want, like, I like when the format like has an open floor. So a lot of people listen anonymously, but it's kind of more fun for me, like, if people are just kind of have speaker privilege and interrupt a little bit and get rowdy and hectic and ask questions.
Yeah, I think the main reason we use StreamYard is specifically because it allows you to like broadcast to multiple places at once. But like the Spaces format is also really good. It's definitely something we would consider doing instead.
Yeah, it's fun. Sometimes like you have nice kind of spontaneous discussions. So it's definitely something cool.
No, we definitely want that. I guess I'm curious, Erwan. So what you said is that what you all are planning on hacking on this Saturday is to essentially extend the utility of Penumbra's DEX outside of Penumbra. Is that roughly right?
Yeah. So the first immediate step for it is, well, just like as I'm a user and I just want to do a withdrawal, and if I have a bad experience withdrawing, like, my trust in this product kind of diminishes. So that's the first thing I want to fix is just, like a user can just withdraw to any place they want, and it's simple, and like next time they consider like hopping into a shielded pool, they're not going to be like, in the back of their head, like calculating whether it's worth the hassle of then bridging out and all that. So that's the sort of like immediate stuff. But the second branch is, like you want to, there's not really any like principled reason why like you can't like do a packet forwarding middleware on Penumbra today, other than just it doesn't exist and wasn't a V1 requirement. So it would be very cool if in the limit you can just interact with the DEX from another chain, and this drives volume for liquidity providers on Penumbra. This drives utility for people on other chains. And although like it is bad, like the welfare of users is higher if people are directly in the shielded pool and like doing everything natively, ultimately like this is kind of a win-win situation. Like you have LP volume, you can just use Penumbra, and the high like the general like velocity of money in the ecosystem like increases, so you can do more stuff. I think that's like generally a pretty big win, and a pretty good like funnel for people to actually like then use the shielded pool as their like just home base for to drive other interactions.
So just to understand this in better principle, what this could mean is that a developer could build some sort of interaction with Penumbra that doesn't require using Prax. Is that what I'm understanding?
So in a sense, yes, but that's the more immediate like unlock is you use you're going to use like ibc.fun or like SkipGo. They rebranded SkipGo, and you want to swap, or like you're just like let's just abstract it a little bit further. You just want to swap some Osmo to or like some Osmo to like some other currency, and there's liquidity on Penumbra. Like what if like your order was able to use the DEX even partially in order to satisfy your desire to acquire like that asset? And it's really good for LPs. It's really good for users. They get better execution, and it kind of a better LP. Basically, better like volume for LP means better liquidity on the DEX. So it's kind of like one way to look at it is, what if you had like a club of users, and those users are like they live like they're your community. They interact with you every day. And their interactions, like the quality of their interactions, it is based on like service providers essentially that come in down and like come and trade our goods. If you have more customers, like if those traders have more customers, you are going to like see the benefit of it because you'll have more traders basically, and so things get cheaper. Transaction costs are driven down, and it's just like kind of a more like it's kind of a symbiotic experience. So you want to attract as many traders as possible so that the people in the shielded pool max out their utility,
right,
and have the most things to buy and trade and at the best prices.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess I'm still curious if like the interaction of what it would actually look like is that this means people are like interacting within Penumbra or like through Penumbra with this in mind.
Yeah. So with this in mind, like you could use Kepler and swap on Penumbra, like
Okay.
Plus some integration work, but essentially like this would be like the goal.
It's very cool. It's very exciting. So
you wouldn't
be
able to trade directly, and like a lot of like your interactions wouldn't be like privacy preserving, but your trade would hit the DEX and get like you would like hit like actual positions on the DEX, and then the output would go back into your address. So the LPs on Penumbra get your volume, get better profitability, and can provision more inventory, and so Penumbra users are better off.
Okay, this makes sense. So essentially the idea here is that while you could allow for interaction directly with Penumbra as a DEX, like since you were interacting with it, so this is the crucial trade-off that you're engaging with as a user. If I'm accessing Penumbra using Kepler and I do a trade on Penumbra that then, you know, doesn't require me to interact with the network itself, then I don't get the privacy guarantee, but I do get the execution of the DEX. Is that right?
Yes.
Because it's being sent back to my SIM account. Okay, that makes sense. So essentially that means there's like two stages of interaction. If you actually want the privacy preservation, then you'd want to be inside of Penumbra. You'd want to swap within Penumbra because you'd want the assets to like have crossed the privacy boundary so that you can trade internally. And then when you exit, you'd want to, you know, be using like unlinked activity effectively. But if you're interacting from the outside and remaining only on the outside, you could either use it as a privacy relay or you'd be inherently just using it only as a DEX.
Yeah, the idea of a privacy relay is also really interesting. In general, like I think we want to have more hooks for people outside of our ecosystem to use Penumbra stuff. So for example, like hub users, you know, like if they want to shield transiently, like just to break the trail of addresses, I think that would be a cool use case. It is always like weaker than just being a native shielded pool user. Like if you're a native shielded pool user, you get insanely strong guarantees. Like no one can tell anything about you, about how much you have, about what you've done previously. Like it's just totally private. However, like, you know, there's a long tail and long spectrum of people who could use the DEX but aren't today, or could use the shielded pool but aren't today, that I think we should, like, you know, hook on.
Cool. Well, I really appreciate you going through and explaining that. It's very cool.
Yeah, awesome. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
and
thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, as Ember mentioned earlier, and Erwan has been doing, you can go ahead and just follow Erwan on his X account, where he will be like kind of hacking live, so you can actually see some of the stuff that's being worked on. And if you're curious, obviously, as Erwan has said, like he's very open to having you speak with him and interact and like learn more about the protocol on that level.
Yeah, I'm going to be live in like probably exactly 2 hours actually. So I'll just get started and people can join and just be silent or talk or, you know, listen to music.
Cool.
It's
Nice.
very chill.
Awesome.
All right.
Amazing.
Well, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Cool,
Erwan.
thanks. All right. We had the sort of perennial question of, are we getting Prax Wallet on mobile soon?
Well, I mean, we did have an update a few weeks ago from a Penumbra Labs engineer who did say that there is work on the horizon for that, right? And sort of demoed that out. So Prax Mobile is something that is as a part of like the kind of eventual technical roadmap. And it is absolutely something that is possible with Penumbra. The cool thing is, if you know enough about how to work on this stuff, this is like an open course of work that would be available to people. One of our missions as Radiant Commons is to sort of like expose as much of the developer experience as possible over time, so that more and more people can develop with Penumbra. So if you have ideas around that, then you can absolutely contribute. However, specific to Prax itself, right? Prax itself is likely to be developed by Penumbra Labs as a mobile application, so that people can interact with the network. And there's actually some really cool qualities of this, which is that being able to operate from within a phone, especially like within an iPhone, it makes proof generation quite efficient. And this is something that like Tal was actually on this community call I think probably about a month ago, talking about. So just to let you all know, like there is actually something brewing in the background and very likely going to be on the horizon.
Absolutely. A few more things that I wanted to highlight. Like I said, the theme for the day is onboarding. So we had Gar highlighting like onboarding that's built directly into Veil, so we can see, so you can kind of follow along and click in to connect what needs to be connected in order to use the DEX. And then we have our CTO, who's literally like developing in the open as a way to like engage with folks so that people can come see, can see what Penumbra is about, can see how to engage with it, and ask questions directly. So it's like throwing the doors open, like, please come and hang out with us. And learn about this incredible protocol. And then on the Radiant Commons side, we are getting things that we've wanted for a long time to exist, which are guides. So let me just throw up the link. So they're going on our blog, but we're going to be referencing them all over the place. And we only have the first 4 up now, but more will be coming shortly, along with kind of follow along videos. And so we have everything from how to get started with Prax, how to bridge assets from Solana, how to bridge assets from Ethereum Base, and how to bridge assets from Ethereum to Cosmos using MetaMask. And so these are like kind of our, like, we're starting with like our FAQs, kind of like top. There's console pick lead also. Okay, cool. And yeah, so we're going to be referencing those. You don't have to go to the blog to find them, but we will be channeling you guys towards this when these questions come up in the Discord, when they come up on Twitter, so that you can really follow along. You can see the pictures. You can get a sense of what is happening and how it works. So when there are additional questions, of course, we're always here. We're always in the Discord. There's always someone to answer your ticket or answer your comment. And if you're more of a kind of like hands-on visual type, you can follow along from there. So that's another onboarding thing that we're doing. Yet another onboarding thing that we're doing is that every other week during this slot, when it's not the community calls, we're having onboarding parties. We're giving away 5 for anyone who comes by, just to sort of like start to swap. And so we have one of our amazing mods is sharing most of the stuff that's going up in the guides as well. And it is a great way to get started. We've had some people who've really enjoyed it and really get a boost. And we get people who like already know everything and they still like to stop by and say hi. So that's in the voice channel in Discord. And yeah, that's a really good opportunity if you like more kind of like live interaction. You can ask questions live. If you're not scared of like voice channels on Discord, that is like the opportunity. That's the place for you. So trying to give you as many opportunities as possible to like come by, get engaged, whatever kind of your flavor of engagement. We want you to be able to use Penumbra. So
remember, privacy loves company. So the
does.
more of you that come by and interact, I mean, it's kind of funny because even from a design principle, right? Like the network is built around the principle of more users equals more privacy, more activity means more privacy. So just by coming by and involving yourself in the ecosystem, you are making it more robust. And
Absolutely.
Since this is an ecosystem devoted to its users and devoted to the user experience, any contribution from anyone is extremely helpful on the front of improving the experience of using Penumbra. So for my part, as like, the person who's heading up the organization looking to get adoption, we always want to bring you in. We always want to invite you into the Penumbra and get you to and we're always willing to teach people how to utilize the software. There's obviously like a very exciting roadmap of like where it is that Penumbra can go from here that is in development, in addition to a lot of like technical solutions that as Erwan mentioned earlier, are going to be made more and more available to connected ecosystems. So I'm very excited about that. I'm excited about the next few months for this chain.
Absolutely. Well, like I said at the beginning, this was probably going to be a short call, mostly because everyone is cooking, like things are happening. And that's why we've had these kind of like shifts in the night of like folks coming by and be like, this is what I'm doing, and also gone. Is there anything else that you want to like kind of peel the curtain away from at this juncture? Like, basically, things are quiet now because it's about to be really busy.
Really
like
busy.
You're about to hear a lot from us.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. So what I would say is pay close attention to everything Penumbra, and that's a very general statement. But what I am specifically meaning is that there are some changes coming to the network that will positively affect liquidity providers positively affect people who are using Penumbra for trading, in addition to people who are staking the token. So just as a little hint in that direction, if you stake there's some pretty cool stuff on the near horizon for you as an holder. And crucially, there's something that something that I think is worth mentioning that people should pay more closer attention to is governance. Because of these upcoming changes, this is a decentralized network. No one is really deciding what this network becomes. It is a product of everyone who interacts and concedes to what it is that the vision should be and the technical direction that needs to be agreed upon. So please go into the forum and as governance proposals are sort of suggested and discussed, that is the environment to discuss it. The voting period is not the time to be discussing it, right? Like hypothetically, it's a 2-day voting period, which is like a little bit short relative to some other chains. Although some chains do choose to like just keep 2 days in. When you keep a 2-day voting period for governance, generally speaking, what you're having people aim for is having the discussion ahead of time. So please do expect, as a viewer, there will be more things in the Penumbra forum. That's forum.penumbra.zone, where you can contribute to what it is that's going to be the next few steps for Penumbra. Crucially, some very, very cool upcoming software changes to the network itself that will directly benefit liquidity providers, traders, and those who stake the token. So that's the first thing I would point at. But that is not, that is almost the beginning of the road. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that comes after that.
Yeah, absolutely. So keep an eye out. Obviously, we will send out on comms when we have new governance proposals, more conversations to be had. And thank you all so much for stopping by and sticking around. And we are always available in the Discord. Come say hi.
And who knows? Maybe next week is going to be, or the next call will be a Spaces instead. We can see. Potentially.
Next week, we are going to be featuring our micro grants.
Right.
Thank you. That pinged me. So next week, 2 weeks from now, we're going to be featuring our micro grants recipients and the things that they've been working on. They won't quite be done with their projects, but they'll have something to show sort of thus far. And this is also the announcement that we will be opening the next round of micro grants applications next week. So keep an eye out for that.
Exciting.
Yep.
Cool.
Absolutely. Thank you all.
Thanks.
Ending.